Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here, Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We're continuing on in the semi-refit of the modular utility vessel. The reason for the refit was to kind of get rid of all of the Kenty blocks. So I've now gotten rid of all of those. Of course, it introduced a grand spattering of other problems to deal with. So good problems, bad problems. So the two things that I need to accomplish, possibly three if we really get into it. So I lost my mount for the miner. That was underneath on the back side, but because I changed the way the thrusters were on the back, and also added the tanks in where they are, as well as the landing gear where it is, I can no longer actually fit the miner in where it was. So I looked for, I was thinking maybe to put it up here somewhere. The problem with that is I need a connector on the bottom. Can't do that because it would lead through to the other side. Otherwise, I have no connection point. All the strange things. So what we did was I lost the front or the centerline mount, and it became a forward and aft mount. And the reason for that is I'm just thinking that, you know, if somebody is using this particular vehicle for traversing a pretty good distance in space, then perhaps they would need to attach other ships onto here. So it would be a good attachment point. This very well may become the attachment point for the miner. I hate to leave something, you know, over the top of the ship like that, but in the end, as they say, you got to do what you got to do. I do not know that we have any other places that we can put this. I can't put it underneath. That does not preclude the fact that we may have like a mining module that would just be a part of. Certainly nothing wrong with that concept at all. So there's a lot of different possibilities there. So, number two problem is this cockpit has to go. It is not, well, is it? That is now showing blue. Or sorry, green. I'm not sure why that's showing green. But it's green and not filling, so don't know what's going on there. That is a unique situation. Huh. Ah, that's why. That is a unique issue. Okay, I might be able to work with this. If that's the case, so let's play. So if you see on this side, this is mirrored. So we have now an oxygen generator on the back side of this. So this is not connected to anything. Oops. So 6, 4, and I do not like where that is pointing. Oxygen pressurizer, we're going to do that. Now that is connected, so this is going to be called air vent cockpit. That is owned by me, yes. And that goes into systems miscellaneous tractor. We do not need to see that in the toolbar. So miscellaneous systems, tractor, and off. So we still have the problem of a medical bay. Is there anything that we can do here? The only thing I can do is put a medical bay underneath, which I hate to do, but I don't know that we really have any options here. Okay, so let us see if our philosophy works. We need a generic. We're going to do a flat inverted. Huh. I guess a reboot and rebuild. Now it's working. Wasn't working yesterday, now it's working. Alright, so I guess we'll leave that alone. Put it there because I need that connection point. Let me, that's the port side. Come on, fuck. Well. Alright, I think we're a little limited, so I was actually trying to look for a space where I could recess that in, but that's not going to happen. So, we put this here. We could either put a conveyor there. So then the question is, do we loop it this way or loop it the other way? And I guess that really doesn't matter. 7, 2. So that goes there. 8. G. Medical bay. There's the medical bay. Medical room. We are done with those. So, if we were to turn the medical room over, I hate to cover that oxygen generator. I suppose I could just kind of look and see what is over here. Tank, of course. The only other option, of course, is to actually remove one of the thrusters, which may not be a bad idea. Do we really need that much thruster? Of course, the downside is leaving a great big hole. I don't particularly like the big holes, but if we put the L right in here, then technically we have room. So theoretically, just like that, and done. 7, 2, actually those two there. Alright, so even though it is upside down, and nothing wrong with it being upside down, because it pretty much works the same no matter what. Obviously, having a medical bay is a really good idea. So, I guess as ugly as that looks, it'd be an interesting place to put a connector so I could actually land on a connector, huh? Interesting mounting point. All right. So. Yeah, I really don't see anything on the bottom where I could actually reasonably put a connector, because now that the tanks are in, embedded in the right underneath the plate, in fact, then there's no place to reasonably put a connector. So that narrows things down sharply, in fact. All right. The other thing I thought was about if I could put them, either the port or starboard side forward aft, but I can't do that either because there's no place to embed them. There's tanks there or the oxygen containers. So then it's like areas like this, and the problem with something like that, even though it would be, kind of convenient, is we have thrusters right there. So thrusters, burning off the side of the miner, which I don't really want to do. Now that the thruster patterns are a little bit unpredictable, so don't know. The only possible solution would be to turn it sideways and put it like right here. So I suppose we could do. Suppose that's doable. Didn't think of that, but okay. Let's try that. So 4. So there's we put a hole there, put a hole there. We connect on both sides. Yeah, why don't we do that? Starboard mid, that becomes port mid. Go ahead and do the global me again. Oh, and I forgot to list the third thing. Okay, toolbar, we're going to take that off. That goes into miscellaneous tractor systems because that serves no other function. Connectors, tractor miscellaneous, save, and off. Room systems. Okay. May or may not be ideal. Well, drive it up here and find out, right? Oh, well, I'm a little off, aren't I? There on into the antenna. Back just a tiny bit. Over. Boing. Alright, that may have worked out a little better than I thought. So, 9, 8, 7, 6. Little bit bent. So, we're gonna do the 8, turn our gyros on, 6, disconnect. Close enough. Gyros are off. 6, connect. All right. I don't know that that is ideal. But it works. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, I can work with that. All right, the next thing that I wanted to consider, I like cameras, and cameras can just make a lot of things a lot easier to accomplish, especially when it comes to things like landing or something like that. So what I was thinking about was getting cameras in and being able to utilize cameras a little more effectively, which is really to say so I can see where I'm going, especially when I'm going down. Gives a nice targeter. There's all kinds of advantages to having cameras. So, having said that, that was my third project. So now that I've solved the mining project effectively, apparently solved the cockpit problem, then what we have left now is the camera problem, or issue rather. All right, so up, down, left, right, and forward, backwards. The other thing that may be worth considering, and so we'll go ahead and put it on here just for the sake of doing it. Bring up my 8 again, a G, and the remote control block, provided I can find it. I'm sure it's there. There it is. Remote control. Okay, don't need the medical. Camera, armored camera, which I love. Batteries. Okay, I don't think I need any more thrusters, so we'll do that. That's the antenna, gyro, Small reactor. All right. Don't think I need any more batteries either, but I'll go ahead and leave that on the toolbar just because. All right. I always like to put a remote control as close to the front as I can. So orientation on this is kind of unique. Ah, darn. Okay, the front is so when you're piloting via remote control, it is the orientation of the remote control unit itself which determines the direction. Okay, so in this case, this is oriented forward. Let me bring up, there you can actually see it. So it turns it solid when you bring up the color menu. So this is forward, okay, with the kind of strange lines pointed upwards, and then that symbol on the front. So this is forward. So what we're going to do is delete that, which was the plate, and then we'll delete the battery, and then I'm going to put the remote control in there. Second to that, I'm going to put a camera on the top because it fits. All right. I'm going to turn off that for a second. Okay, how to orient cameras. Now this is kind of one of those personal preference, but I want you to imagine yourself sitting in the cockpit there on the lower left corner. And I want you to tilt your head back as if you were looking up. Okay, your chin is now pointing to the front of the vessel, correct? Chin to the front of the vessel. So the chin is the bottom of your view, right? Your eyeballs. So the camera we want to orient in the exact same fashion which will simulate that I'm staring up. Okay, so that's how I use, that's the methodology I use to orient myself. So I'm going to put this camera on right there. Beep. So not too bad there. Okay, so there's my up camera and my remote control, which I did not have before. Now we want to put a down camera, and we can kind of figure out how to do that. I am going to put it right here, and the reason I'm going to put it right here is because it's right next to the connector, so I can actually use that to guide me somewhat in on that connector. Okay, now the one on the bottom, I'd use kind of the same methodology. So imagine yourself sitting in the chair and you are going to look down. Now, if you consider where your chin is, which is the bottom of that camera, is now facing aft, right? Chin aft. So, I'm going to put this thing on just like this. Boop. So then I can see facing down. Convenient. Okay, port and starboard are really not going to be that hard. And the reason why they're not really going to be that hard is because I have some convenient spaces on which to put that. One of the things that you can do, you can actually put a camera on the side of the hydrogen thrusters if you really want to. So that is another option here. In this case, I'm going to put one right here. So I need to orient this to up. So the green light is in the bottom left-hand corner. Bottom left is up. Or is the camera turned right side up. Okay, so this is the port side camera, but remember, if I do this, I'm mirroring. I'm going to add the port side camera first, then the next number down is the starboard side camera. So bing. So I just added two cameras, but I have to remember the order. So my order is top, then I put the bottom on, then the port side, and then the starboard side. All right, now, what do I need to do next? Now I need to put a camera forward somewhere. Where can I put the forward camera? When I don't have any other options, I like to put them on the starboard side. Sorry, port side. So, what I want to do here, this is midstream, so I don't know if it will let me. The answer is no. It will not let me put that there. So this may be a challenge. Where can I put a forward-facing camera where it will actually make a little bit of difference? I got nothing. Steering by remote when you don't have a forward-facing camera is always a little bit of a challenge. I don't really have any readily available surfaces here. And my guess is I'm going to run into the exact same thing aft. Yes, indeed. Although I do have a thruster that I can put the camera on in the aft. In fact, do I want to put it down low, low or high? Low or high? I think we'll put it down low. 7. And that one is already facing where I want it. So, there it is. So the trick is really trying to find somewhere to put this thing. So I can't remove that one because I really need we could remove this and then put it there. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Did not want to do that. All right. 6, 8, and so not ideal because I like symmetry, but as they say, it is what it is. So you either have it or you don't have it. Alright, so those are my 6 cameras. Now do I want a docking camera of some kind? And now the problem with the docking camera is if we get really into collision boxes and all that sort of thing, then we start getting into this slightly unpredictable world of will the box actually hit the camera? And will the camera take damage? So that's the downside. Having a, I would put the camera. Let me see. I would put it right here, because what that would let me do is aim for the center. In this case, I've got I've got a cargo container there. So I line up on that cargo container, and theoretically that's my focus. So once I'm lined up on that cargo container, then I'm pretty much set. The problem is, will I hit being as we get really close? Alright, so I'm not sure what else I can do on here. I've got cameras. I wonder if I could put a thruster right here. Alright, we'll use 8 to... No, of course not. Because I have the reactor there. Darn it. Darn it. You know what I could do? Three, 4. It might totally screw me up, but all right. And then all right, my forward reactors. Scroll all the way to the bottom here. Forward lower reactor. I'm going to turn the conveyor system off, and I'm going to toggle the block off. Here's where I'm going with this. Small forward lower reactor. I'm looking for small forward lower. Small forward lower. Where can I put that? Okay, small forward lower. That one should be off. Here's what I'm thinking. This is all for cameras now, keeping in mind. This is how OCD I am. Okay, so the the reactor, if you see, it's got the 2 ports, right? Typical small reactor. So this one is swiveled around forward, so it doesn't do anything. But I can actually use that port to connect on to another port. Here's where I'm going with this. Let me go to 8. Let me bring up a small reactor. There's a small reactor and hydrogen thrusters. Okay. 6 is a small reactor. So we're going to nuke that reactor. We're going to swivel that reactor like this. Okay, so it's connected on the top, and it has the other port pointing forward. So connected. Then we are going to connect via a conveyor. We're going to blow that one, go back to number 8 and select 5, which is a thruster. And now we have a forward thruster. We're going to go number 7 and number 2, which is going to put a plate over the top of that. I'm going to go back into here. Okay. I now have a, let's turn that off. I now have a reactor. This is a small forward lower. Okay, so I have replaced the small forward lower reactor. We're going to call that me. Yes. In fact, we're going to go ahead and do a Control A and make sure we do a me. Yes. Because the remote control, I needed to do that one as well. All right. We're going to take that off the toolbar. We're going to add that into reactor's small tractor. And we're going to take that off the terminal. Okay, now we're going to go to inventory. Reactors. I put a bunch of extra into one of these reactors. So there it is. I'm going to actually steal from this one, and I'm going to find the empty one. Where is my empty one? There it is. 57,000. Confirm. All right. Okay, so that one's filled back up. This one's, these are stealing, yeah, those are stealing uranium from somewhere. Control panel, reactors, stop stealing. Okay, now, having done that, then we can put number 8, number 7, and the camera, which fits exactly like that, and 0, 6, 8. There we go. Put that back where it was. Alright, I'm going to go into the cockpit, and the reason I'm going to go into the cockpit is because I want to start configuring my cameras. So, I'm going to go into K first because I actually want to name all of the cameras and such. Okay, so if we remember, this one was the upper side camera, right? So I'm going to call this, as I always do, the dorsal view. Dorsal meaning up, upper side, and that's a view. The next one we put in was the bottom one. So this is the ventral view. 3, if you remember, was put in on the port side. So this is the port view, which means the other is the starboard view. The aftmost camera is the aft view, and this is the forward view. So those are all 6 of my cameras. Depending on what you want to do with them, I leave them on the toolbar. Just for convenience sake, I'm going to go ahead and put those in Systems Miscellaneous. Or does it really matter anymore? Maybe not. Maybe I'll just create a new group called Cameras Tractor. Again, we want to leave them on the toolbar, config toolbar, but we're going to turn them off on the terminal. We have another thruster. So let me go ahead and let's do a me again, because I just added that camera in. The thruster goes into thruster's main tractor, and then we're going to turn that off and off. Okay, so gyros is actually the minor, containers is the minor, reactors is the minor, systems miscellaneous in this case is the minor. Okay, so this is why it's always convenient to have groups that are specific towards your vehicle there. Thruster's main is the minor. Okay, so remote control. So in this case, we want to say RC, and this is KTC MOV tractor. Try to remember if I did the KTC. I think I left the designator off. Yeah, and micro minor. So KTC micro minor is what the antenna says, and RC micro minor is what the remote control says. So we'll use that same convention there. So remote control. All right. Not sure what to put in that blank slot, so maybe we won't even worry about it. Actually, I do know what we'll put in that blank slot. I have a downward camera, right? G, all my cameras. Here's my cameras. So, camera, we want the ventral view. We can put the ventral view right there. So these are the tractor module connectors, but we have our ability to land, so our thing. So looking down, blah, blah, blah. And I think we're going to leave it with that. I don't really see the real advantage to the cameras. What the heck? What the heck? So usually when I do cameras, it's forward, port, forward view. So we have a port view, we have a starboard view, aft view, dorsal, which is up view, and ventral. And then in this case, drills, that's the Kenty drills. Groups. Batteries, tractor, we could do, you know, whatever we want here, and landing gear. So I'm going to go ahead and do landing gear, switch lock, just because. And if I really wanted to, just for utility's sake, is open. And the biggest reason for that is if I'm landing this thing and I have no power or whatever that goes, then I can literally be, you know, on my ventral camera, be watching as I'm screaming up towards the ground, and then I don't even have to shift toolbars, just punch 9 and shoots deploy. So might be interesting. All right. Go back to toolbar 1 and escape out of this, and I'm going to tee out of the cockpit for just a moment. What I'm really doing here is just making sure I'm clear around. So I'm going to do an Alt F10, which brings up my Space Master, biggest grids first. Okay, so that is the monster. Next is my micro miner. Next, okay, that we can get rid of. Next, large grid, remove. Next, another. Next. All right. So first, next, 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 next. Okay, we're just cycling through. Not a big deal. So we know we're down to the miner, and we're down to the tractor, which is all I wanted in the world here. So having done that, we're going to do. All right. Better. Okay, we're going to do a Shift F5, which is a quick save. Yes. We'll wait for that to actually tell us it's saved. There it is. And then we start our maneuvering drill. Okay, so here's the reality. So let's get into a view so we can actually see. We'll zoom out a little bit. So we've changed all of our thrusters out to generic thrusters. So bottom, top, everything is now changed out to generic thrusters. We have 100% on our hydrogen, which is good. We're using 4% of our power, which is good. According to this thing, we have 32 years. Oh, well, yeah, 32 years there, as things roam back and forth. Okay, so the basic motion test is we go WASD, and then the C in the spacebar, and see if we move. So there's thrusting to port. Wow, really very good thrust capability. Forward, and then backwards. Backwards not quite as responsive, and one of the reasons for that is I have those central ones turned off. You can see my number 6 there are turned off. Okay, thrust upwards, which is really going to rock and roll, certainly, and downwards. All right, so we have our basic motion test. Here's the mouse test, which is really to say our gyros. All right, we have 8 gyros, and actually the 8 gyros are moving this thing pretty nicely. I was not expecting that. Certainly not anything incredible, but it is there. So I'm actually impressed. I was thinking with only 8 gyros this was going to be problematic at best. So not bad at all. Okay, so that passed the basic movement test, which is really kind of neat. All right, 4. 4 is my downward view. So as you can see up there in the top corner, camera ventral view, and it tells you what vehicle you're on, which is the move tractor. All right, so not too bad. I still don't like all the pixelation thingies there. I always hated that. I mean, we haven't had, interlaced video in how long now? So here it is, way in the future, and we're still using interlaced video cameras. Really? I don't think so. Okay, toolbar number 2. So, camera number 1, we can see is the forward view. Camera number 2 should be the side view. I'm going to go ahead and T. So that's my port side view, right? I'm staring at that big asteroid over there. I am facing forward. I'm going to Alt and actually rotate over here. So indeed, that is my port side view. Port side view. So I'm going to rotate all the way around. And then I'm going to go to my starboard view, and there it is again. Aft, so I can see the engine bell there. Dorsal, so I'm looking up, and ventral, looking down. Okay, so that's not bad stuff. So all the cameras work. So we have successfully tested everything through here. All right, so T to get out of the cockpit. So we're going to save this blueprint. Now the blueprint is not done. If you recall, I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I have not yet configured the interior flight seat. Okay, so B. Tractor, here we are. So if I were to go into this one, details, rename, so this is the Kenti mod version. And details, rename, this is the vanilla. Beaver, how about vanilla version? Okay. Of course, it's not really a vanilla version because it has a highly modified Kenti minor on it. So while the vehicle itself, and actually when I put this up on the Steam Workshop, it will not have the minor attached to it simply because obviously you're not going to be able to load that one in. So it would kind of be pointless. Okay, so the only other thing that we have to do is actually to configure the flight seat on the inside of the cockpit. I am not going to do that on screen because that's kind of a boring waste of time for everybody. What I tend to do, I know this is going to sound really ridiculous, but rather than writing everything down, I literally pull out my phone, because after all, my phone has a camera on it, and I take a picture of the toolbar. I go to the next toolbar, I take a picture of that toolbar, then I go down to the flight seat, and I program all that in, and the next toolbar, program all that in, and then I go to the remote control and I program all those in. So the idea there is that now I have all the toolbars match as close as humanly possible. They match. So anyway, that's something that I can do off screen. In the next episode, we are going to start building. I want to build 2 modules, possibly 3 modules. So one module is just going to be a large cargo module, simple, no rocket science at all. Simple. The next one will be effectively a habitation module, and I think the habitation module I'm going to have a little bit of cargo and jump drives. So that will kind of take the place of more of a colonization type thing, where you have some storage capacity, you have some jump drive capability, and then you have habitation, whether it be colony. You have a variety of, for example, cryo chambers, that sort of thing. So going for that thought process, and then the last one is a production module, which is really to say I have refineries, I have assemblers, I have a methodology of taking these raw materials, whatever they happen to be, and pulling them in and processing them. And of course there would be a little bit of storage in with that. It should be interesting. The real question is, how big do I go? How much room do I spend on things like the assemblers? Do I stack a couple of them together? How do I do that? How many refineries? That sort of thing. It's always nice to have 2 refineries. There is actually room for it. So the idea is I have a 11 by effectively 9 area that I can use underneath the bolts onto the bottom of this vessel. So as long as I stay within those parameters, then it should be all right. And I mean, technically I could go outside those parameters. There's certainly nothing sacred about the dimensions of this particular vessel, as long as it can hook on and as long as it can pick it up from wherever it happens to be, or land it in that case, as the case may be. So in any case, I think this is a good stopping place, and then we'll start actually on redesigning the modules and making larger modules. So with that, this is Kenty Tiger signing off, and I will see you next time.